I was looking at Tesla
The media is
because
starting to talk so bad about him. I think it's coming in on a macro bottom just on sentiment. Like I want a Cybertruck so damn bad. People are like, it's ugly. It's like, I know it's ugly. Well, it's EV. I was like, I don't care if it has a diesel engine in it. Like, I want one. It looks like a Halo Warthog in real life, and it upsets people. Like, I'm all about it.
so I was actually looking at Tesla because the chart itself, like this was essentially a 578-day downtrend that broke out. Can you see my chart?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you had 148-day kind of like, yeah, it's a downtrend. And then it broke out, and I was looking at it here, and I was like, oh man, like, is it going to hold on this retest? Right? It's pretty technical stock. And I did see a 9. I think it was on the daily. Yeah. And this is where looking at nines in the past um, is important on things like this. Like you had one here, didn't work, right? You had one here, yeah, sure it worked. You had a sell here, nope, ripped higher. So like looking at nines in the past on things is also a big part of it. 9 here, you would have had to eat some drawdown. 9 here, drawdown. This was a sell that worked. So when I saw this 9 and I started to look at like the Stoke down here, I was like, maybe. And then I went and looked back at like the history of nines on Tesla, and they're actually not that great on a daily.
Yeah,
So yeah. And also like Elon's not helping himself.
he never does.
Yeah. So it was like kind of a sentiment thing too. But now you've broken down here and like you you've kind of fallen back below this, but you're still potentially making a higher low here off of all of this. So to your point,
That's where I have an order block right now on the algos have it. It's sitting right on it. We actually have like almost the same chart on. It's kind of funny.
oh yeah. So uh here's a 3 day. I guess that 9 actually is pretty good. Have you
Because
looked at like
it's
a
really
week?
sensitive to RSI. Like you get a lot of the macro Tesla bottoms on RSI rotations.
Yeah. I mean, these TD setup trend lines also are kind of magnets for price, right? You'd basically run this low if it came into here, but like, what is that a percentage? How much does that need to go down? Um, when is their earnings also?
Earnings is
Or did it, I think it,
January 24th, so they're coming up.
okay, yeah. So 15%. Yeah, that's a lot. I don't know. All right, so yeah, January 24th, like you're coming into some interesting areas. Like that's something obviously to take into account too. Like maybe they have a really good quarter, and then there's your bottom, and you're positioned for the next move up.
There's a
But
double pivot at 182 as well.
182,
Yeah, ED's like at 170. It's close.
you'd get like doesn't need to be like if you're getting 180, you have a 182 pivot on this thing. Like sure, it's probably good for a trade. I mean, you're looking at this at like
Daily.
you're and you would see this going to like new highs significantly.
Right now it's ranging. I had the channel that you had marked,
Yeah.
and it
Here's
broke
your
up above it,
diagonal.
and then it came back in. Yeah. So now she's coming back in. So, but if you ever see like those reversion bands that I have, those are hanging out right below 200 right now. So typically Tesla will macro bounce out of those, but it's gotta we got to see what it's going to do. But like I said, we're going straight into earnings, and there's all type of Tesla hate right now in the media.
I
Which
just think
in
PM.
the past, when there's that much Tesla hate, it tanks and then pops back up.
Yeah, here PMA daily bands are 198. This guy only patterns. I, he's a friend of Luke, this guy Crypto Luca. I've known him actually for a really long time. Um, he made I don't really know like what the component of this thing is, but I do look at these things when it gets down to like daily levels on bottom bands. Because again, just go look at the history.
Oh yeah, I've always
Yeah.
noticed you have a rainbow that indicator. Not
Yeah.
mine, but I've seen you post that tool for years, like all the time.
Yeah. And it's like helps you tell yourself you're like, yes, yeah, look, there's more confluence. They don't always work, but like we're all doing the same stuff pretty much. It's managing risk and using your tool set to try to figure out how do I outsmart the market somehow.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I remember talking to Brett like a long time ago. It's like I can see the whales and he can see the whale food. It's like
Yeah.
we get a real weird confluence because we're coming at it from two different ways.
Yeah, like this is 4 hour 9 on that trend line and the Stoke cross right here. Like, I don't know. And when you fail a 9, it's really not great. So failed the 4 hour 9 daily, still has a little room to come down where it's like oversold. Uh,
Do you pay attention to the 13s as well?
so that's a combo thing. And no, I don't. I just
Okay.
take like the simplest approach. There's a lot of Tom DeMark products, like real ones. Um, and you can kind of get lost in it. So I just look at like, okay, is the 9 below the 6? Is the hanging 7? Um, having a 9 like on like the lowest point is always like nice. And then actually EXO and I kind of started to look more at Stoke Cross and 9s because we would use those in our trading. I've known him for I've known him since 17 basically. Um, and he was the one who was like, "Hey, ISO, you should take a look at like what they look like when the Stoke Cross is on the bottom." Because he didn't use TD, and then he obviously looks at TD like occasionally, right? And maybe it's not something you use every time, but it's something that's just in the back of your mind that you might look at if you're like maybe looking at higher time frame stuff, right? It's like, let's see what this actually might be showing, and if it's there, then like great. Like I remember when like ETH printed a 9 like last year in March on like a weekly or a daily after like a big sell off, and it was like a bottom, and like Bitcoin had done maybe a day before or a day after, and that was a 9, I think. So yeah, it's always just having it in the back of your mind. But it's funny that we both are looking at Tesla because I have not DM'd you or even spoken. I haven't even spoken to anyone about Tesla. And that's the one chart I have.
Well, it's out of all the TradeFi stuff, if you put Tesla on the 4 hour or the daily with like rainbow trend stuff, the algos just destroy it. They kill calling tops and bottoms. So I always watch it as kind of a macro thing
Yeah, I could see that. I
because
mean,
it moves like crypto. Like it moves like a crypto asset. It doesn't move like Apple. It doesn't move like Ford. It's real distinct and it's got a shit ton of volume on it.
yeah.